Hi everybody, it's Mr. Gray here. Thank you again for another great week with your kids. We have a lot to get to, so I'll get right to it. First of all, the kids are right in the middle of state testing right now. So we've done several of the tests. There's 2 math, 2 English language arts, and a science test. We went through the 2 math and the 2 English language arts. Some students might have a little bit to finish, and they'll do that next week. And then the last test we'll take officially is science, and then we'll spend the week letting kids finish up tests that they didn't finish, or the makeup tests they didn't start for whatever reason they were gone that day. So we're still in the middle of state testing a little bit, and those are long weeks with a lot of downtime, but we're doing our best to keep it fun and keep it light and make sure we're going outside and not sitting inside all day for that long testing. Another thing that's happening coming up that we're doing right now is we're doing a class Jeopardy tournament, which is kind of a fun end of year review. So we'll just play a game, once every few days. Almost all the class wanted to participate. So you can imagine we have 27 or 28 students at the beginning, and then we'll play a Jeopardy round, and the Jeopardy questions are all kind of things we've talked about during the school year, or kind of related to things we talked about during the school year. So it's kind of an end of year review, but in the form of Jeopardy. And so you might hear about that where students have played. Maybe about a third of the kids who want to participate have already played. And so there's a first round, a second round, and a third round, and eventually we'll have a class Jeopardy champion. So you can ask your kids how they did already, if they already played, or maybe when it's coming up. It'll still take a couple of weeks till everyone has gotten to play one time, and then we'll be in the second round, and then that'll last pretty much until the end of school. Another thing that is happening right now is the All Apis project. Kids are in their groups. They're making a design for a brand new playground. If we repainted the playground, what would it look like? So kids are working with a 4th grader and a 6th grader. That's their group, and they'll continue to work on that. And as a reminder, on Tuesday, May 23rd, we'll have kind of a convention where you, the parents, are invited to come to school. That'll be true of 4th and 6th graders as well, and get to see their projects and what they've been working on. It'll be also an interesting time as it's kind of like an end of the year celebration of the Apis program and of your students and all the hard work they've done. Another announcement I have is that on the very last day of school is a 5th grade pool party. So all the kids in 5th grade go over to the pool, which is right next door, and they spend the day playing in the pool and having lunch. It's a really fun time. So we'll send out a permission slip about that, coming up pretty soon. But I just wanted to give you a heads up. So that's the very last day of school, Friday, June 2nd. We'll walk over to the pool about 9 o'clock in the morning, and then you'll actually pick up your kids from there. So we won't come back onto campus. That's the plan at the moment. And there are lifeguards that are paid for, and of course the teachers will be there. So it's well looked after, but that'll be a really fun day at the end of school. Another announcement coming up, there's a link in the email, but there is a district art show where the art teachers kind of selected really amazing pieces from around the district, and so you get to see just art pieces from all over and all different grades. Dia from our class was selected. One of her pieces was selected to be in that art show. So that's a really great honor for her. And so if you're interested, there's a link for the time and the date and all those things. Other things that are coming up is our final chit chat speeches. We'll start the week of May 15th. The kids got to pick anything they wanted. They get their 3 minutes. It's totally up to them. We talked about even people who have a silly topic have to take their silly topic seriously. So they don't have to have a serious topic. It can be fun and lighthearted, but their speech has to be taken seriously since we've been working on it all year. So that'll be really fun. The last announcement I have as a reminder is we're lucky enough to have a lot of talent here in our classroom as well as all over Santiago Hills. And the Santiago Hills Talent Show will be Thursday, May 18th at 5:30 p.m. It's pretty long. I think it's going to go for maybe like 2 hours, maybe a little bit less than that. There's a lot of acts that are going, but it will be really neat to see kids in our class perform, as well as kids from all over the school. So that's Thursday, May 18th at 5:30 at the outdoor stage. For Reader's Workshop, all the academics this week are going to be a little bit dependent on state testing. We also have art. We're working on the All Apis project. So the amount of academics is just kind of reduced and a little bit uncertain. But we're continuing reading fantasy novels. And if we get to it, a couple things we'll discuss for the week are the complicated nature of characters in fantasy novels, as well as we might do a little bit of investigation of symbolism that comes up and what that looks like and what it might mean. So if we get to that, that'll be kind of our topic, but we'll keep with fantasy novels for the week. In keeping with the fantasy novel theme, I'm reading out loud The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. It's a really fantastic book to kind of look at how fantasy novels generally go and kind of the elements of fantasy. And so we're a little past halfway through that, and I think we'll finish either at the end of this week or the beginning of the week after. In Writer's Workshop, closely aligned with reading, they're staying on their fantasy stories. So kids are writing fantasy stories with their own heroes and villains. And we're going to write our last 2 sections next week. So in an effort to make sure the kids have a full story, a beginning, middle, and end, I really kind of limited what they could do. We tried to focus on just 8 sections that had to be a little bit not very free for the kids to write what they wanted. And that was mostly because when we give them that freedom for creative writing, it just goes down a path that's very difficult to rein in. So we'll get a chance to do that. And so, after we do this, but in order to get that one finished fantasy novel, I wanted to make sure they did that. So our last 2 sections are going to be about twists and turns. So the hero has had this kind of showdown with the villain or have faced really difficult obstacles. And now there's going to be a section of twists and turns. Maybe like a friend or mentor betrays them, something unexpected occurs, they lose their power or gain a power. So there's going to be twists and turns in this section leading up to the last section, which is the climax and the conclusion, the final showdown, and then a kind of a concluding area where everything kind of wraps up and the storylines wrap up. And then we'll have time, the kids can kind of get caught up on their writing and kind of finish it a little bit. They'll look back with a partner and try to make sure there's no giant plot holes and that things connect. And then we'll move on to actually the publishing phase the week after. In math, it's the same announcement that I gave last week. We're going to try to get to you maybe some decimal review or our last little section on shapes on the coordinate plane, but it's really dependent on the schedule and how much state testing makeup we have to do and those things. So hopefully we'll get to some of that, but we'll play it by ear for the week. In social studies, the students are working on a partner project. We read a book called Fortunately by Remy Charlep, and it's this very basic story. It's pretty funny. It has this very simple structure where fortunately someone gets invited to a party, and then unfortunately the party is in Florida and they live in New York. And fortunately they had a plane, and then unfortunately the motor exploded. So it's this kind of just funny structured book, very simple, but we're using that structure to tell the story of the American Revolution. The kids have a hardcover blank book that they're using to make all about the American Revolution, but in this structure. So they're working with a partner because it's a big project. We're not sure what the due date is yet because we kind of have to see how testing goes. But they have to, type things out and draw things and use images to tell this story of the important battles, people, and places of the American Revolution using this fortunately, unfortunately structure. So you can ask your kids about that. They might be doing it from the Continental Army, the American point of view. They might be doing it from the British Army's point of view. As to what is fortunate and what is unfortunate. So that's kind of a really exciting thing. And then we're going to continue to read aloud The First Conspiracy, The Secret Plot to Kill George Washington by Brad Meltzer, the Young Readers Edition. We're right at the point where we're trying to put pieces together. It's this very long book where you're giving all these kind of side stories, and just now they're all starting to come together, and we're starting to unlock the secret plot to kill George Washington, which is being carried out by the governor of New York, who's exiled on a ship, a British ship in the harbor, and some people in New York City. And then we're thinking right now that there's someone involved who's one of George Washington's personal bodyguards, which you can think of like Secret Service. And this was a brand new thing called the lifeguard. So we're trying to find out now if one of the lifeguards, the bodyguards, is in on this plot to kill George Washington. So we'll see how that turns out. In science, the students are going to be reviewing and thinking about, reading about, writing about Earth's gravity and how that force works and how it affects things on Earth and elsewhere. And of course, they'll see Mr. Marco for Science Lab. So like I said, thank you again for another great week. We have lots of exciting things coming up. Next week, we have the Korean Cultural Festival being put on by students in our class. That'll be very exciting. I'm really excited to have that. We're so lucky to have so many great cultures represented in our class, and to get to highlight all those has been really exciting this year. So it's our last big opportunity for that. And like I keep saying, the end of the year is absolutely flying by. And so you'll hear a little bit more about that in the coming weeks, but we're getting close to the end. We'll have some time to wrap things up, and then your kids will be off to 6th grade. So it'll be really, really fun at the end of this year, and hopefully things like the Jeopardy tournament and the All Apis project and some things we're going to learn will keep everybody really happy and having a good time right to the end. As always, you can send me questions, comments, or anything, but that's all I have. So have a great weekend. Bye-bye.